back with another leg day video. This is going to be quad and glute focused. So of course we're going to warm up first. If you guys have seen my other videos, you know it's always a dynamic warm up to begin. So I did a quick 5 minutes on the treadmill before jumping up and getting to the squat rack. So here we're just doing a dynamic warm up. Each exercise is around 8 to 15 depending on how it's feeling. We started off with some front kicks and then some lateral, just warming up those hips and seeing my range of motion, making sure nothing's pulling or feeling awkward. Next, we're going to sit into a nice deep front lunge. Here I'm kind of just focusing on letting my knee kind of go past my toe. And I also have my arms overhead as well, just because I was feeling a little bit tight from an upper body day a day prior. And then from there, we're going to go into my Cossack lunges as well as 90-90s, and then also into a hamstring stretch. Now, I already did my hamstring day earlier this week, so that's why it's quad and glute focused. Typically for a week of workouts, if you guys have seen that video, I do 3 different leg days: quad focused and glute focused, then we're doing hamstrings and glute focused, and then we do a full leg day. So I do legs 3 times a week. This is just one of the days that I'm working them. Our first movement for today's workout is going to be front squats. I typically always program front squats for quad and glute focus, and then I do a back squat for hamstring and glute, or for just a full leg day. So for front squats here, we're starting off with just the bar to warm up, and then we're doing a warm up set at 25 pounds and then 115, and then working our way up to 135. Here we're going to be doing 4 sets of 6 reps. Now, key things with a front squat: you're going to need a lot of mobility here. Because the bar is loaded in front of you, you have your wrists all the way cranked back, and ideally you want your elbows nice and parallel. If the elbows drop too much, you're going to find that your upper body actually drops as well with the front squat, causing you to lean forward and potentially just dumping the weight in front of you. So you do want to make sure you have the proper upper body mobility as well as lower body mobility. I love front squats for the pure reason that it almost forces me to sit in a deep squat in a nice proper position. My chest is up, my bum is almost to my heels, and I'm able to drive up through my heels straight up. Our first superset of this workout, we're going to be starting off with a front foot elevated lunge. So this is going to be a reverse lunge. So we're going to be stepping backwards. For the elevated surface, I'm using a riser, but if you don't have those available, you can also stack 2 plates on top of each other, or even just use a platform for that slight elevation. Now for these, I want to have 80% of weight in my front foot, because that's going to be doing all of the work, and then 20% in the back leg, which is going to be the balance component. Now for here, we want to have a slight hinge forward, so core nice and tight as we are slightly hinged, and then we're going to be powering through our quad and our glute to stand up nice and strong. Now the slight elevation basically just adds a greater range of motion, making it a little bit more challenging, a little more emphasis on those quads and glutes as we're going through the movement of the reverse lunge. After finishing our lunges, which was 4 by 10 each leg, we're moving right into the second exercise, which is going to be heel elevated squat pulses. Now this superset, honestly, I had a little bit of a longer break between this one just because my heart rate was beating, okay? And then also I knew the superset was gonna be a little bit of a doozy. So this one with our heels elevated gives us a greater range of motion. So anyone who's got a little bit more of a stiffer ankle mobility, this is gonna be great for getting you a little bit deeper into that squat. We are never locking out the legs. It is a pulse, but it's not a baby pulse. As you guys can tell, it's basically borderline full range of motion. I'm just never locking out. So here we want to drive through the heels, keep our chest up, core nice and tight, moving up and down for 4 by 15. Now that our quads are feeling like absolute jello, it just makes sense to move on to our glutes. So here we have our second superset that is going to be glute focused. We're going to be doing a Smith machine step up, supersetted with banded glute kickbacks. So for the step ups, it's going to be 4 by 10, and for the kickbacks, it's going to be 4 by 15. Starting off with these Smith machine step-ups, these are a great exercise for our glutes, but they're also really good if you're trying to improve or achieve your first pistol squat, because it is a single leg movement. Now here we are going to have a slight hinge forward because we are getting our glutes, and I go relatively light for this one, mainly because I want 100% of my weight and my effort to go in that leg on the bench. I do not want that back leg pushing or rebounding off the floor. I want to keep it nice and slow and controlled. I also like to keep the weight relatively light because I don't want any turning in my torso to try to compensate for the heavy weight, because I don't want to throw out or injure myself. I want to make sure I'm working smart, controlled, and slow. Following our step-ups, we are supersetting with a banded glute kickback. Now this can be done kneeling, this can be done standing. It doesn't have to be anything specific. I just want to do a last little burnout of my glutes, which is why I have these two paired together. I am using a relatively tight band, so my range of motion is a little bit slower. If I were to redo this workout, I definitely would use just a slightly lighter band, so that way I can get a better squeeze at the top and a better range of motion for this one. The last glute-focused exercise is going to be a hip thrust complex. So I'm doing this on the Smith machine. machine. But if you have a hip thrust machine or just a free barbell or dumbbell, you can also do it with those pieces of equipment as well. So first we're starting off with a staggered stance or B stance hip thrust, then moving into a hip thrust pulse or cause glute bridge. So the reps for this are going to be 4 by 10 by 10 by 10. So 10 each side and then 10 of the pulses. For the staggered stance, the leg that is closer to your bum is your working side, so all of your weight should be there and the other leg is just for balance. And for the pulses, we just want to make sure that we're not hyperextending our back, and then we're keeping a nice short range of motion, really squeezing the glutes super, super tight. At the end of this superset or at the end of this complex, your glutes should be on absolute freaking fire. To end off this quad and glute focus workout, we're gonna be finishing up on the leg extension. So this is a nice little finisher that I like to add in just to really burn out those quads. So it's going to be 10 single leg extensions followed by 10 just regular leg extensions. It's going to be 4 sets and only 30-second break between each set. This is just to purely just burn out those quads. The weight here that I used was 55 pounds, so it does feel heavier for those single legs, but the double legs, because your legs are already so fatigued, trust me, it is still challenging. There is still a burn, and especially with those short breaks. So definitely make sure that you are using the appropriate weight, that you're moving nice and slow and controlled, and you're not locking out too aggressively. We want to make sure those feet stay parallel, so no turning in of those toes. So make sure you're paying attention to that on those double leg extensions. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and you enjoyed this workout. If you give it a try, let me know, and make sure you like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you guys for the next one.